So it's a new year, you're feeling super inspired, I'm ready to change my life, I'm ready to start a business, but there's only one problem. What is my passion? Especially for multi-creatives, if you feel like you struggle to find your thing, but you want to learn how to get paid to be yourself and to not have to pick one thing, let me tell you something. I'm gonna let you in on a secret. Come closer. You don't have to pick one thing. I know the feeling of how frustrating it is when you have so many different passions, so many things and interests that you're like, what do I even start with? If anyone knows your frustration, it's this girl right here. By the end of this video, I hope that you'll have a ton of clarity on what the next step will be for you if you're feeling like you don't know where to start in this new year. The good news is you have multiple passions, or maybe you don't even realize you have multiple passions, because a lot of times the things that are natural to us, we don't genuinely believe are worthy of starting a business or turning it into a passion that we can monetize. We find it so natural to us that it almost seems too good to be true. The key is you want to find a way to incorporate all of the things that you love and focus on the ones that align most with your current values. I want to share this concept with you, which I have mentioned this book called Ikigai, which explains this whole thing in detail. I will leave a link in the description below if you want that book. But Ikigai is a concept that is basically finding that sweet spot between what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you can be paid for. To find what meets in the middle of all of those things is going to be the sweet spot that we'll call Ikigai. The only way that we're going to figure out that sweet spot is through action. A lot of times we get in this overwhelmed state of having too many options that we end up doing nothing at all, which is what we call the paradox of choice dilemma. You have too many options, so you get overwhelmed and you basically can't make a decision. Once you start taking action, you will start figuring out what you clearly do and don't want to do, especially in your personal life, in your work life, everything. I remember there were so many times that I thought in my mind that I wanted to do something, and when I started doing it, I realized this environment was not for me. I'm not as good at this one skill as I thought I would be. So I need you to start getting out there and putting yourself in the situations and testing the waters. Put yourself in the environment that you think you want to be in and stick to it for a short amount of time. I want you to make a list of all the things that you're good at. And you can break this up into categories. If you need help structuring the skills and hobbies that you're good at, I'm going to leave a link in the description below that you can check out, which is going to be a free resource that you can download, and it can help you basically brainstorm these ideas on your own time. But essentially, you're going to want to make a list of all the things that you're good at, from hobbies to skills. Write down anything that comes to mind. And then what you're going to do is you're going to narrow it down to the ones that you feel like you are the most good at, maybe like 3 to 5 ideas. If you have a really hard time choosing, you can even start with 10 and then narrow it down from there. I know that this can be really challenging for us to think of for ourselves, so if it helps, I want you to ask the people closest to you or someone that you trust or who knows you pretty well, and ask them, what do you think that I'm good at? Or what service do you think I can provide to people based on my work experience, the type of personality I have? This was something that I did in the beginning too. I find that the thing that most people already see in you, or that they already go to you for, are going to be things that you'd want to explore in terms of turning into a business. You're going to find so many opportunities within that thing, because when you think of, like, for example, for me, I was always getting questions about makeup. I was always getting asked to do people's makeup. And I figured that I could use that as a way to leverage my skill. I took that step into becoming a freelance makeup artist. But there's so many different layers of makeup and industries within that category that I could then explore. So once you have a general guideline, you can then start trying and testing different parts of that industry. So for example, I worked in retail in the makeup industry, then I did bridal makeup, and then I did on-set makeup for music videos, then I did makeup content, which is eventually what led me to becoming a full-time content creator and what I enjoyed the most. So you're going to want to explore in different ways. Don't immediately give up once you try something and you're like, oh, this doesn't work for me. Like, don't completely discard it, but use it as evidence and take note of what you didn't like along the way and what you did like about it. Because you can always fine-tune these ideas and the feedback. It can lead you to the next best thing. The one thing I want to point out here is you can only focus on 1 to 2 things at a time, and giving it at least a consistent amount of time for you to be able to collect feedback. At least 6 months, if you want to cut it down, maybe 3 to 6 months. But within that time frame, really put yourself out there and try to get in the field as much as possible. Of course, starting anything new, it's going to take a little while to get yourself off the ground and running. But once you get a little bit of momentum, you can really start to see whether or not you enjoy this, or you're like, okay, I can make this into something. But don't just sit back and kind of wait for things to happen for you during this time. You need to be putting yourself in the right rooms, in front of the right people, connect with the right people in this field of whatever it is that you want to be doing, and really start putting yourself out there. Can you sign up for certain websites? Like, I remember when I was wanting to get into graphic design at one point, I utilized a lot of the connections I had when I was doing music, and I started doing graphic artwork for a lot of music independent artists at that time. And this helped me get some experience. You want to get some feedback from people in the real world. Something else I did when I thought I wanted to be in graphic design was I put myself on websites like Fiverr, where people hire freelancers to do things like graphic design or editing. So putting yourself on platforms, just look for ways to put yourself out there and get in front of your potential audience, your potential customers. There were times even where I pitched myself to business owners. I knew a couple of small business owners, and I said, hey, if you ever need any graphic type design projects, I'm happy to help or do a trial and show you what I can do. And I ended up actually landing a short-term contract in graphic design and social media at the time. It was such a cool opportunity. I got paid for it. I built some connections and real life experience in the thing that I wanted to do. Of course, later down the road, I realized that I wasn't exactly as passionate about it as I thought I would be, but those skills are still handy today. So at the very least, and the very worst case scenario, you're gonna learn a lot of new things. You're gonna have a new sense of confidence because you've put yourself out there. You have sharpened your skills in some way, shape, or form. You have built some connections. And this is one of my favorite parts about it, is because either way, time is gonna pass. So you're either going to do nothing and let time pass, or you can at least try something and learn a bunch of experience, meet some people, and figure out if you really enjoy this thing or not within that same amount of time. Always gonna benefit you to build up your own skills. You're just gonna need patience to really stick it out when it feels tough, it feels frustrating. The thing is, you can't build an entire plan for yourself. I think a lot of times, even myself in the past, I used to think, okay, well, I'll do this first and then it will lead me to this and then it will lead me to that. And I tried to map out my future with all the different passions that I had, and it just doesn't work like that. We need to be able to just focus on the next best step, and then you take it from there, the next best step, and you just keep taking it one step at a time. Don't make the mistake of trying to map out your entire life, your entire future, because nobody knows what's going to happen. And a lot of times that need to control is actually going to hold you back from uncovering amazing things that weren't part of that plan. After that period of 3 to 6 months, you can evaluate, what did I learn from this? Pros and cons list, break it down. Did I enjoy this? Do I feel like I could make a business out of this? Do I see myself doing this for the next year? Then you have enough data to kind of reflect on. Looking back now, I was very surprised how I got to where I am today as far as the way that my journey unfolded, because if you would have asked me to make sense out of the way that my path unfolded over the last few years, I would have never been able to predict any of this happening, because it just happened in a way that I did not expect. That's the beauty of life, when you are focused on yourself and preparing yourself by just taking the right actions and not over worrying about how and when it's going to happen. So in summary, you don't need to pick one thing, but in the beginning, you are going to need to narrow your focus down to 1 to 2 things at a time, 3 to 6 month period, and then reevaluate the progress and the data. Repeat this process until you find that sweet spot, ikigai, which is going to combine what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you can be paid for. You need to not be embarrassed to evolve because it is cringe and uncomfortable, but that's the whole point. Do it for a bigger reason than money. Money is a side effect of passion. If you aren't connected to what you're doing, it's going to be difficult to make money, and you might make money, but it won't last. Make sure that you're never doing things purely for money, because that will just lead you down a path of disappointment. When you realize when days get tough and things get hard, you're gonna have a much bigger why, a much bigger reason other than money. And in a nutshell, I will say, once you find the one thing that you can make your business, or like if you want to monetize a certain passion, you will realize that not all of your passions are going to be a main source of income, but they will definitely contribute to the umbrella of your skills. There's this quote that I want to end the video with. If you love what you do, you can get paid big for your passion. The key is to find a way to turn your enthusiasm into a valuable skill that people are willing to pay for. If you enjoyed this video, you're gonna love this video here where I go deeper into rebranding your identity, which will be really useful for the new year. And if you made it to the end of this video, comment down below. I'm ready, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye.